Hi! There's really no funny or clever way to start this particular video, so I'm just gonna get to it. I'm Cassandra Corrado, a sex educator who works with adults to unlearn the pretty harmful stuff that we learned when we were younger. And in this episode of You Deserve Good Sex, I'm going to help you start to rebuild a positive relationship with sex after you've experienced trauma. You might be thinking to yourself, well, I've never experienced anything traumatic, and even if I have, it had nothing to do with sex. But most people will experience some form of trauma in their lives. Most people think the word trauma only refers to things like sexual assault, partner abuse, or surviving a war zone. But trauma is any deeply distressing experience that has a lasting impact. A particularly rough breakup or divorce could be traumatic. A major illness like cancer or a difficult pregnancy can be traumatic. A global pandemic where it's unsafe to be in close contact with other people? Traumatic. Trauma can include both interpersonal experiences like partner abuse and the ways that we personally experience big social things, like a pandemic or systemic racism. All types of trauma, no matter the root cause, can have sexual side effects. And for every side effect, there's a coping mechanism or healing strategy that can help. When we experience something traumatic, our brain works to try to protect us, sometimes long after the traumatic experience is actually over. Sometimes that looks like our brain inhibiting our ability to feel our own emotions and sensations. Sometimes that looks like our brain making us super aware of any possible threat, which counterintuitively can make us feel a lot less safe day to day. When it comes to sex, those manifest in two main ways: sexual avoidance and sexual fixation. Sexual avoidance is what you see in movies and TV shows more often. It's when you avoid sexual scenarios because they make you feel unsafe, out of control, or because they simply aren't enjoyable for you anymore. Sexual fixation is less commonly represented in media, but not less commonly experienced. That's when you use sex to regain a sense of control over your body. So you might have sex more often, with people who you typically wouldn't, or in situations where you typically wouldn't. Some people even experience both at different points in their recovery journeys, and that's fine too. Neither experience is the right or wrong way to cope with past trauma. They're just ways. But real talk, your traumatic experiences may have tricked you into believing that you aren't worthy or capable of having good, healthy sexual experiences anymore. That voice is lying to you. You deserve good, healthy, enjoyable sex. Rebuilding a positive relationship with sex after you've experienced trauma might not be easy, but you and your pleasure are worth the effort. First, remind yourself that you are safe, in control, and that you can stop anything at any time, even if someone previously took that power away from you. You get to set the pace here, so don't stress about things happening at the right time. The only right time is when you feel ready. Remind yourself of this as often as you need to. Next, identify any moments or activities where you feel pleasurably present. This doesn't need to be anything sexual. It could be reading a book, gardening, doing yoga, whatever. Are there particular elements that help you feel comfortable doing those things? And can any of them translate to solo or partnered sex? For example, if you feel comfortable and present reading, then erotica might be a helpful bridge. Or if gardening helps you feel more grounded, then bringing freshly cut flowers that you grew yourself into your bedroom could help you feel more at ease. A third tip is to work on rebuilding your relationship with positive, non-sexual touch. It might seem irrelevant, I know, but if you're struggling to feel safe or comfortable with non-sexual touch, you'll probably struggle with sexual touch too. Start with self-touch, like brushing your own hair, massaging yourself, or using fabrics and textures to rub against your skin. You can also ask a partner or a trusted loved one to help you with this. Next, play around with sexual touch. You don't need to go straight for your genitals. Take the time to relearn how and where you like to be touched. It may be different than it was before, and that's totally okay. If using your hands just feels like too much, you can use a toy or even water pressure from your shower to ease your way in. Remember, you can stop at any time. This isn't a rip the Band-Aid off situation. It's a retrain your brain that you have control over your own body situation. That takes time, patience, and attention. You can even set a short timer for yourself so that you don't feel pressured to keep going if you don't want to. And if, when the timer goes off, you find that you're still into things, you can reset it and keep going. If you're wanting to have partnered sex again, the first thing to know is that you don't have to disclose your trauma to your partner. But a little info can be helpful. If you want to keep it vague, try something like, I've had experiences that make it hard for me to be fully engaged during sex. Sometimes I get overwhelmed, triggered, or disconnect entirely. That might look like, insert thing here, here's how I like to be helped. I don't want to go into more detail about the cause of this, but if you have other questions, I can answer those. Giving your partner a heads up that you might have a reaction helps prepare them to support you. And it can give you an idea of how well they might actually respond if you do get triggered. If you start to notice that you're having a negative reaction during solo or partnered sex, take a pause. Remind yourself that you are safe and you're in control. Describe your surroundings to yourself out loud. Put your feet flat on the floor. Take a long sip of cold water. These are all grounding techniques, and they can help you recognize how you're feeling without being consumed by your reaction. Some people also find that their desires and fantasies have changed after trauma. If that's happened to you, that's okay. Take the time to get to know you and your sexuality as they are now, without pressure to get back to where you were before. You've been through some shit. And sometimes the stuff that we've been through changes us a little. Who you are today is worth getting to know. You are still worthy of patience, and you are still worthy of good, pleasurable sex. Thanks for watching. If you're craving more videos on sex, abortion, parenthood, and more, subscribe to Rewire News Group's channel. And if you learned something new today, share this video with a friend. They deserve good sex too. And if you've experienced sexual or interpersonal violence and want somebody to talk to, visit nsvrc.org or rain.org to get connected to someone who can help.